Hi everyone, I'm Suman Agarwal and we are back on Insta Live once again with another dynamic guest. He is an aviation and hospitality professional, a certified image consultant and a soft skills professional. Also the chapter president of Image Management Professionals Association. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mehernosh Daruwalla. I'm waiting for Mehernosh's request. Hi Mehernosh.
Hello, ma'am. Very good afternoon. How are
Good
you?
afternoon. Can you see me clearly and hear me loudly?
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. I could. The video is also clear, and so is the audio. I hope the same from my side.
Absolutely. So no glitches, right?
Absolutely. No glitches.
So let's
How have you
thank
been,
our
ma'am?
stars and let's thank the internet.
Yes. I think it will keep going good with us, and this time it's on our side.
Absolutely, absolutely. So how are you doing?
Very well. Very well. Pleasure, and it's been a great journey so far. The lockdown is relaxed a bit over here on in this city, so
Yeah,
work has
that's
started
my question to you. That
now
how
going
what's keeping
outside.
you busy? What's keeping you busy during this time?
Yes. So even the lockdown had kept was busy. In fact, it was, I can say, a much busier phase
Mm-hmm.
than the regular work phase, because work was happening anytime. So initially, when lockdown started, for the first few days, everybody was like, okay, now there's nothing going to happen. There's no work going to happen. So a few days was a bit of relaxation, where everybody binged on a few series, and that were there on their watch list, and cooked a lot and all. But of course, somewhere this void of the work part was always there. And that's when I thought that, this can't happen. I mean, because nobody knew how long was the lockdown going to be. I mean, it was 1, 2, 3, 4. So then that's when I decided that no, the work routine cannot be broken, and that's something which is very, very detrimental. So then that's it. That was the start and the beginning. And as you start work, obviously what happens is, when you sit with your work, when you sit with your diary, you sit with your laptop, that's when ideas start coming in, and that's when work starts happening. So
Absolutely.
that's how work happened. And there were many projects, in fact, during the lockdown that took place. A lot of learning took place for all of us. I mean, in terms of online courses and upskilling our own selves. So I think most of us took this time to invest in ourselves, and making and upskilling ourselves in terms of digital platforms, in terms of learning. So yes, the lockdown was pretty busy. We got to connect virtually a lot with
Oh yeah.
everybody. So yeah, so we did quite a lot, with the members of the fraternity, with people outside. So honestly, if you ask me, man, I don't think there was any social distancing that happened. If we actually look at the term social distancing, in fact, we were connecting much more socially with people during the lockdown. I think it was just the physical distancing that took place, but socially, everybody was quite active, and most of us were quite active. In fact, Facebook and Instagram, the usage of it, if you see the research in the past few months, had suddenly gone up.
And
You know,
Zoom for that
and
matter.
and Zoom, absolutely. So during demonetization, it was Paytm, and during the lockdown, it was Zoom. So Zoom like shot up completely. Zoom, Blue Jeans, Cisco, WebEx, Google Meet. So that's where the digital platforms took over, and the learning. The whole learning curve also, if you see, man, got a new dimension completely, in terms of, even in our field of training and consulting. We figured out ways on how to do things, even in spite of not being like physically present. So that was something really phenomenal, in different ways, how each one in their own field made a difference in the virtual world.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, Mernosh, we come from the same
Yeah.
industry, and to be very precise, the same
Yes.
organization, right? So, what was
Yes.
the
Yes.
dilemma in your mind about taking? I mean, was there any dilemma in the first place in your mind about taking this plunge of becoming your own boss? I mean, when you decided to make that.
Uh, yes, ma'am. Honestly speaking, so when we are in a job, what happens is we are in our comfort zone, which is very, very comfortable. So to share something about a little bit about more in detail about my life in terms of my experience. So I was in a job with Jet Airways, as you rightly said. We came from the same airline, and I was already working as a trainer with them for over 3 years. And the dynamics, if I share the dynamics of my job, were so I was in Mumbai. I was well settled in my job. My job and my house was 15 minutes walking distance in a city like Bombay,
Wow.
which I know for
Okay.
sure that if I switch off my computer at 5 o'clock, I will be switching, sitting at home and switching channels at 5:30 for sure, without any much trouble by just walking for 15 minutes back to my place. So everything was like a picture perfect scene, and good package, good job, you're closed, you're settled, you've just got married, and everything. So the life was like a picture perfect life. Now, in this picture perfect life, there was this thought that how long am I going to be able to do this, and is this something that I want to do for the rest of my life? So when that thought came in, so what we call the entrepreneurship, the kida, the entrepreneurship worm. So
Entrepreneur.
that's when it happened, and then I started thinking towards it. The bug, yes. So that bug had bitten me, and now is the time that I had to put thought to it. So when I put thought, it was a very, very informed decision. So it's not that I thought of it today and tomorrow I went in and put in my papers. And then I found out reasons that why do I want to do this? Because as I told you, everything was going great. I had an amazing boss. I mean, one of the few people which people crib usually in a corporate world is because they don't like working with people or they don't want to deal with a boss. I had an amazing boss. My commander, so I worked under two captains in my tenure as a trainer, and both of them were phenomenally great, and they always motivated me to do something in life. And in fact, this was also one of the things that they had inspired, that you could do something of your own as well. So that played a very important and a major role in my life when I thought of this decision. So I sat down, I sat down to it, started making notes. What are the things that I can do, and how is it that now I can grow and progress in this career? So never, I did not make an decision just overnight. It took at least 3 months, and I started writing the pros and cons. I gave it a serious thought. What are the options that I can do? Second thing is, the biggest dilemma, ma'am, we have is our finances. So finances, like because that's something we are so used to as a secured amount coming in, every month. It's, you know it, that it's going to come in at this date. So that's something big when we are going to start afresh again, is something. So plan your finances is very, very important when you're thinking of quitting a job and getting into entrepreneurship. So these are a few dilemmas which did happen at that point of time. So what I would say is, think for 100 times, 1000 times before doing this. But once you've taken the decision, so the day I sent that email of my resignation, that was the day the feeling sinked in, that now there's no looking back. That's it. There is no looking back. And so that's when the feeling sinks in. But then after that day, ma'am, I have never thought of why did I take this step. What happens is we keep thinking about it even after we take action. And that's then, I think, then there's no end to that part.
So
So once I did that, I started off. I came back to Baroda, my city, and I started on thinking on the plans that I had put down. That what are the things that I wanted to do. And since training was a part of my work experience, and I wanted to venture out into training further. And ICBI happened, and it's been
so
a
you
phenomenal journey after ICBI has happened. So
So you literally switched yourself off as soon as you...
Sorry, ma'am, I cannot hear you.
Can you hear me now? Can
Ma'am,
you
I
hear me?
can't hear you.
Can you hear me, Mehernosh?
Yes, ma'am, I can hear you now.
Yeah. So I was saying, so it was easy for you to switch off as soon as you resigned? Completely switch
Sorry,
off?
ma'am.
I said, was it easy for you to completely switch yourself off when you resigned, when you sent in your resignation?
No, ma'am. It wasn't completely very easy because that's something which happens over a period of time because we are so used to. So as somebody from an industry, when you're working and as an employee, you're always used to going to work and work is there ready for you. You never have to look for work.
Yeah.
And that's something which is very, very important, that we need to understand that as an entrepreneur, you are the master and you are the slave, both.
Absolutely.
So you have to make sure that you need to make that mental switch in your head and take each day at a time without thinking too much about what's going to happen 6 months down the line or 1 year down the line and how am I going to work it out. Yes, the fear is always there because the fear of unknown is like, as I told you, ma'am, it kills people, the fear of unknown. So that's one of the fears which comes as a part of the dilemma, the fear of unknown, that what's going to happen, and why am I taking this step? But look at the other side of it. So when I said, what's max going to happen? I mean, honestly, what's max going to happen? I'll fail. I'll not do well. I may not be able to become an entrepreneur, but at least for the rest of my life, I will never have that regret feeling in me that, I just never tried. Maybe if I had shot email that day, maybe if I had taken that step, there is a slight, even if there's a 10% chance that if I will succeed, I would like to take it. It's like life and death. Today, when a doctor comes out in an operation theater and tells you, if I operate, there is a 10% chance that the patient might survive. Don't we take it? We just take it, right? Blindly. So that's the shot that we have to somehow take. And I was in a stage of my career and life where I thought that I could bounce back because I was 32 when I took this step. Not even 30, 30 when I took this step. And I said, max, I'll give myself 5 years. I said, in 5 years, if I'm not able to do well, I will definitely be at least, well knowledgeable, experienced, and have the work experience to even take up a job again and start my life.
True.
So there's nothing worse that's going to hit. But if I don't try only right now, then where am I leading?
Absolutely, you're so true. So tell me something, Mehernosh, when you took this decision, the first dilemma comes in your family member's mind that, what is this person planning to do, and is he gone crazy because he's planning to leave his full-time secure job and, planning to venture into something on his own, and, that's going to be like a big risk. So what was your family's reaction to taking up this step that, एक monthly income जो आ रहा है वो बंद हो जाएगा and then he's going to follow his dreams? So what was your mother's reaction, your wife's reaction to the entire decision that you took about being an entrepreneur?
So when I discussed this with them, that this is something that I'm looking at, and of course that I shared, my family knows one thing for sure about me, and now that if he wants to do something, he's just going to come for advice and opinion, but at the end of the day, if he wants to do it, he's just going to do it. So I have been somebody who's always, so this is something which is a part of my personality. I've always taken advice, opinion, and suggestions, but at the end of the day, the decision-making authority solely lies with me. And because I feel it's at the end of the day, I'm the one who's responsible for it. So be it a decision in my personal life or professional life. And I'm very, very glad and thankful that my parents and my people around me have understood, to whom I actually just ask and consider. So I don't discuss this with many people. And this is something that also I would tell when you're thinking of taking this decision. What mistake people do is they ask many people, about it.
it is very important also to know from whom to take advice and suggestions.
Right.
Now, when you're, so if I was working and if I go to somebody who's working for last 30, 40 years, and if I've taken advice and if I ask him that, do you think really it will be nice if I quit my job and start entrepreneurship? There are higher chances that that person is definitely going to say, are you mad? Are you like cuckoo in your head? So it is very much possible. So when you are even taking a decision, whose advice you want to take is also one point that, you know, is important for you to consider.
Absolutely.
So when I discussed this with them, and they were close because obviously they are the closest people in my life, my mother definitely had a little, you know, apprehension about the ROI part. So she said, you're investing something, you're going to take money from your savings that you have saved. And plus you also have some responsibilities because you're married, and you also take care of a house. So I have a home loan. So I've taken a house for myself and I have a home loan. So they said, you have these responsibilities. So have you planned it? Have you taken into considerations these things? So I said, yes, I have. And how are the opportunities for work after this? The money that you're going to invest, is it? So I shared these details with her, of course, but they obviously, all of them had something to do with this because they're all going to happen in future. So I said, there is no 100% surety. And the only question was that my mother took this plunge at 45. So, and she did fairly well. She's still doing well. She's still into it. She's still working. So I said, when you could take this plunge at 45, I'm still in my 30s. I can definitely take this plunge. So it's either now or it's going to be, you know, at the age once, you know, I have my kids and then I retire, then, you know, in the last few years of my life, because then the dynamics change completely. So it is also the timing in your life which matter when you want to do something like this.
So true.
And my wife definitely supported. And in fact, when sometimes we did talks over a coffee and I ask her that, on how things are going. And so she tells me, you know what, when you told me that you wanted to do this, I was always sure that you're going to do well in this thing. I said, how are you so sure? She said, because when the way you were talking about it and the way I have seen you work, even when you're working for organizations, she said, you are somebody who's just plain simple a hard worker. So no matter if you can work hard for somebody else, I'm sure when you're working for yourself, you're going to give in much more than what you're working for somebody else. So that just explained it all, you know. So I was like, okay. He's like, yeah, because you're a workaholic and you're mad. You're like, you'll work like so many hours a day, and coming from hospitality industry where, you know, 12 hours and 14 hours of work. So it was, so that was the good part, you know, and that really helped me because as an entrepreneur as well, because definitely there is no substitute to hard work. And I feel not even smart work is a substitute. It's just that even smart work works only if you work hard. So that's one thing, you know, which was always there. So yes, they did have little apprehensions, but ma'am, they were quite supportive, and they did help me in the initial stages. When there are a few low days, when you are starting off, when you're stepping in, when you're climbing the first step on the ladder. So they were very much supportive, and they said, just keep at it. We have faith, and things will be great. And yeah, there I am, 3 years in the industry, and things are pretty good. They're great, in fact, I can say.
Superb.
God has been kind.
So Mehernosh, you have been doing a lot of work with the Gujarat government. So can you tell us something about the finishing project that you're associated with?
Sure. So in fact, the finishing school project by the government of Gujarat was one of the first project that I got associated, passed out of ICBI. And one thing that I would like to share here about that project is the reason I was eligible for that project was because I was a certified soft skill trainer. And that played a very important role in firstly even being eligible to apply as a trainer to the state government for this particular job. So like a lot of people say that, soft skills is very common, and since why are you taking up soft skills when you already had 3 to 4 years of training experience in JET? But yes, I did have experience, but today even that experience could not have helped me get on this project with the government, because of course certification was not there. So certification played a very important role in taking up this project. So when I took up this project with the state government, it was a project that they had started on skill development for the youth of the country and in the state. So initially it started with 40 to 50 colleges, and within a year, as the project flourished, they now have added 240 government colleges and engineering colleges, polytechnic under their wing, where they train the youth in the final year on soft skills aspects and English language skills. And there's a whole 80 to 100 hour training program which is devised and executed. So there are a panel of 40 to 50 trainers that were recruited all over Gujarat for this. And when I heard of this opening, I also informed a couple of our trainers, because I got to know from one of our trainers who was also associated with it from ICBI. And it was a great platform to begin with for trainers. And so initially also this made a difference, because once you graduate and you want to start working, this gives you a good platform, because you're dealing with the youth, you're dealing with the students, plus you start getting to actually put things into practice what you have learned in the sessions by sitting in the classrooms and doing classroom training at ICBI. So that part really helped in enhancing and brushing up the skills of a trainer. So that was a great thing that happened. The project spreads to thousands of students all over the state. And something great what we did related with this project was during the lockdown, which I'm just going to take a minute here and share that we came up with an online webinar series during the pandemic time when most of us were feeling low. And we thought that why don't we start an online webinar series for all the students. But the challenge was that how do we cater to thousands of students who are there? I mean, because even if we take up a paid version of Zoom, it's going to be only allowing us a limited quantity of 400 to 500 people to get on the training. So what they did was they streamed the Zoom training live on Facebook. And that helped reach that training to every day thousands of students. So I got this opportunity to address 4,000 to 5,000 students at one point of time together when I took up a session on interview skills for them, which in a physical world could have never been possible. Addressing 4,000 to 5,000 people together at the same time. True. And then that video is uploaded on the same Facebook page. Today that video has reached 12,000 views.
Wow.
Which is like great. I mean, if you look at it, that as a trainer, when you see that feeling that so many students benefited actually by looking at that video and made some good use out of it. So the power that we got on the digital platform was completely different. So this was a great thing that the government did. And one of the, when we all think that what are the things that how can we progress, things can happen if you start and come together and think about it and put things in perspective. So the state government really did a lot, and this platform flourished. There were so many people who came forward and helped in developing things and putting the modules together. So there was a full committee, and there were people from the higher authorities in the state government who supported this project. So it was a great platform. And I always tell trainers that if you ever get a chance to connect with the youth of the country, do that, because they are the ones who are the future. So it's great.
So how many students you would have trained by now from the Gujarat government?
Sorry, ma'am?
I'm saying how many students you would have trained by now through this finishing school project?
How many students? Wow. Okay, so I have completed over 500 to 600 hours of training with them. So every training project that we take up is 50 to 50 hours of training. So I have completed approximately 12 projects with them, 10 to 12 projects, and each batch consists of 30 to 40 students. Okay. So So quite a few of them in the last. So I'm associated with them for the last 2 years, and so quite a few batches. And in fact, if I add the number of this 12,000 on the virtual platform, that's a great feeling that I had.
Yes.
So it was really wonderful for a trainer to even get those many number of hours to train and put your work into practice, because that's just nothing but sharpening your axe continuously.
So true. So we have been talking about soft skills, that you have been doing the soft skills training. So can you tell us what are the 3 most important soft skills that one must practice to lead a happy and successful life?
Okay. So I'm going to be talking about a few which I didn't have, and a few which I had. So the first one that I'm going to talk about is the one which is still, I would say, work in progress, but definitely better than what I was a few years back. So that's self-discipline. So I realized that and I realized this when I became an entrepreneur, that how important is self-discipline in your life. So under self-discipline is, as I told you, that when you're starting, we all take this for this one reason, that we want to become an entrepreneur is, I want to be my own boss. That's like a great feeling. Yes, you do get to be your own boss, but what we forget is, as I say, you are the master and you are also the slave. We forget the slave part of it. We feel that, yes, I am the master, so I'll do how things I want, which is very right. But who are going to do those things for you? Is there anybody else who's going to come? No, you have to do those things yourself. So that's something which is very, very important. So in terms of being self-disciplined, starting to manage your time very well, and to do that, as we all know, in time management, the biggest thing that we need to do is self-management. So self-management is something which I learned through self-discipline, and I feel as a skill it is very, very important to be with you. You have to be a self-starter, a self-motivator. There's no other way to it. The second thing is something which was there in me, and I always admired this part of me, which I liked, and which I realized over a period of time in my journey, professional journey. When I started with hospitality in the first few years of my life, I was 3 years with the hotels, and then in aviation, was interpersonal skills. So I was working as a duty manager. I still remember this one day that I was working as a duty manager, and there was we all were sitting inside in the back office and having a meeting, and somebody, the receptionist, came and said, "Sir, could you just somebody come, because there's a guest who was screaming, and there's something has gone wrong." And so I was sitting, and we all were sitting, and my general manager was sitting there, and he said, just send Mehernosh. He will come back making that person his friend also, and in the evening he'll be sitting and having a glass of wine with that guest. Isko bhej do. Like, just send it. So I was sitting there and I was looking, and like, just go. So I went there and I handled. So it was really nice, and so over a period of time, complaint handling and handling people, handling guests, handling the staff. I realized over a period of time that this part of me, dealing and working with people, was something which was a benefit, which was an advantage. And when we do our own SWOT analysis, which is strength, weakness, opportunity, threat, I realized that this is the strength part, and which was there in me. And so that was something, because very well worked in my favor, because even as consultant and trainers, we work with people, we work for the people, right? And everything about us is dealing with humans. So that's something that I felt that really helped, and is an integral part in life in general. Like I'll quote Benaisha over here, like what she said last time, that behavior comes any day better over the knowledge. So if you are well behaved, even if you don't have the knowledge, it's just going to help you. It will work for you. And so interpersonal skills is something which is on top as well. And the last one is an integral part. It could be a cliche. It could be something which is, overwashed and overly said, overly, spoken about. But I mean, we can't deny the fact that effective communication skills is an integral part of everybody's life. But it's just here that people sometimes mistake communication with language. So language, yes, is a part of communication, an important part, but it's not that if you're not good with any language, you can't be good with communication. So communication is the bigger umbrella science in which we deal with. So most all the aspects of communication. So an effective communicator will definitely have an edge in be it professionally or personally. So these are the three things which I felt are somewhere related even to happiness and also success, largely in a person's life.
Oh, absolutely. And that's so true. So what are the next 5-year growth plan and how do you plan to stay focused on them?
Honestly, I have written them down, but I don't know if they. When I was doing the whole goal setting thing, so I had this thing, ma'am, which I used to do that when I was getting trained in soft skills at ICBI, every session that we would attend, I would try to at least incorporate, if not everything, some part of it in my own life as a person. So this is when we did goal setting, and smart goals came into picture, where you need to be specific and measurable and stuff. So when I did this goal setting part of setting goals, I did put a few things down when I wanted to do this. So yes, I have put a deadline of time, and it is somewhere as the same that you have asked, 5 to 10 years, and it was something that I realized that as a trainer, ma'am, our biggest limitation is that, or as a consultant, we can be present at one place at one point of time. So you can that's all you can, that much you can do. Even if you are, the best trainer in the world, you can still be present at only one place at one point of time. So what if there is also work at the same time somewhere else which has come to you? So what do you do? So the way ahead and the way to move ahead is to definitely work collaboratively, work as a team and collaborate with people. So the bigger plan is to have an organization, to have a training firm wherein we can have more people come in together, work together, so that as and how work comes, it can be, it can remain there with you within the firm, and it can be sent to the right person at the right place. So that's something which is a part of the plan, where I would like to keep it where in future I would definitely love to work with people together and have a little firm wherein we all are working together and there is work coming in, because as you will grow, work is going to come in, and work is everywhere. I'll tell you, work is everywhere, and we all know that work is everywhere. We just have to have the right pitch and find it at the right place, and you will get there if you keep working towards it. Yes, you're the one who's going to run after it initially, but eventually the tables turn. So that's something that is there on my mind. And second thing which is there is to work in the current project that I'm working with the government and take this ahead to work on a larger platform and connect with the youth, not just for the state but pan India, and work for the youth, because I feel there's a lot of potential that we have with the youth. And yes, I understand a lot of people say, working with millennials is very, very different. Sometimes it's very difficult even to work with them, because they have their own mindset, they have their own standards, they have their own thoughts. True, they do. But we fail to forget that they also have the potential, if channelized in the right direction, in the right way, to take the country ahead. So, because at the end of the day, that's age and experience is an irreversible process. No matter how much you try, you have a limited lifespan. How much are you going to do? So if you're looking at the larger picture, they are the future. So that is something we have to create more leaders. Absolutely. The way for the way forward. So that's one part where I would love to work with, and so that's why my personal association also with this project is very, very intense, because that's something that I want to work on. I want to work with the youth of the country. And when we speak of the youth of the country, often people talk about the 10 metro cities. Today most of us, what is India for all of us? India is what? Bombay, Delhi, Chennai, Hyderabad, Bangalore, Kolkata, Pune. But honestly, if you look at it, that's not even 10 to 20% of India. More than 60% of us of India is rural. And that is where our country's real talent, real potential sometimes is lying. It's just there. So if we really do that job of getting that talent, polishing their skills out as trainers, as consultants, there is so much that we can do for the country ahead.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. So my next question
So
to you is, Mehernosh, I mean, you belong to an industry which is assumed to be female-dominated industry, women-dominated industry. So how do you establish your identity, or how did you rather establish your identity, and what is the scope for male image consultants in the industry?
Thank you for asking me this question. But yes, so initially this was one of the I wouldn't say threat, but one of the factors that I was contemplating when I looked into the industry, when I was considering a course in image management at ICBI. And if you actually talk to my center head, Miss Hina, she would say that that this thought did cross my mind. But when I did more research into it, when I got into it, that there must be something which must be related. So as per the dynamics of the course, that happened was that most of them were taking up this course because they wanted to do at their things at their own pace and time. And that was one part which most of the women were considering this course for, and that was there. Secondly, also, yes, a lot of factors in terms of image management are more appealing, and they come naturally to the women gender, which was there when I was sitting in the class and talking about, because all the aspects that deal with it talk about the dressing and they're related to clothes. Now, the whole stereotype is that men and clothes are poles apart. They're not together. Like men would never deal in anything which is related to clothes. Like that's not one of the priorities for them in life. But then here it was not just about clothes or buying clothes for yourself or dressing yourself up. Here it was a science which was related to clothes, which could help the opposite person enhance his or her appearance. So that science had no gender associated with it, because at the end of the day, it was knowledge, and knowledge has no bias in terms of any gender. So I realized that part of it, and I said, then I also looked up that were there any males or not, and how were they doing? So that part was there, and there were males who were there in the industry, even existing at that point of time. Of course, the ratio was, lopsided, definitely, but they were doing well in spite of them being there in the industry as well. They were doing very well for themselves. So that again put my faith back into the thing that if there are male and if they are doing well, which means that yes, there is scope of it in the market. You as a male, you will be able to do well. And the biggest thing that I realized also, so I don't know, this may sound a little, it's very, that crazy also, but I also gave it a thought and said that the person who's also one of the directors and the co-founder of this business is also a man. Right? So Mr. Agrawal is there in it. So when I had a talk with Mr. Agrawal at this point of time, and then I looked at it, then when a man can also be in this business and start this business of whole ICBI, so me being a consultant, so definitely I can, make something out of it for sure.
Absolutely.
So,
and to be very honest, I mean, this is probably a mindset that male image consultants are not very successful. In fact, we have a lot of male consultants who are doing pretty well. We had those two, Sunil Pereira and Sunil Kini, who were doing pretty well and who were very successful. And I don't think that image consulting or probably soft skills training is a male-dominated or a female-dominated industry, because when we say fashion, when we talk about fashion, on the face
Correct.
value, fashion looks like a female-dominated industry, a women-dominated industry.
Absolutely.
See, the highest or the most renowned fashion designers are male. So
Are
if you
males.
look at Manish
True.
Malhotra and if you look at all the other designers of the world, I mean,
Absolutely.
all of them are male.
Yes. So even with even with cooking, like usually the stereotype is with cooking, you associate the women gender. I mean, no biases today. Everybody cooked in the lockdown and everybody has been cooking. I have been cooking as a child. So there was definitely, but we usually have these stereotypes. Now, if you look at the industry again, the best of the chefs in the hotels are the males, and they are dominated. The hotel industry, the chefs are dominated by males. So these were the things, which did come, and they said that, okay, this could be like an industry stereotype or probably how people look at it. But it moved out of that factor, deciding factor that no, this can be definitely taken care of, and it's not something that I cannot go ahead in this field because, there is no scope for men, and that bias could not be there in my head. So after that, it was never there. And once I came in to the industry and I started working, yes, of course, my classroom, in all the batches and all the trainings that I did, I was the only male consultant at that point of time. But that's okay. I mean, it was because the knowledge, and in the classroom, the trainers had no this with it.
So you were the privileged one, right?
Yes, it was a good experience. As I always share and tell Mr. Agarwal that, it's a big moral boost to a male consultant, considering the surrounding at ICBI, because you are in the environment and in the group of people who are well dressed, well looked, women around. So it definitely is a big moral boost. So there was no apprehension after that. Absolute, no matter what.
Fantastic. So what are the kind of assignments that you have been undertaking?
So currently, ma'am, since I've also mostly started, my major work lies with institutes and corporates, and that's the area that I focus on when it comes to soft skill trainings. And in corporates, I work with SMEs mostly, and some bigger corporates as well, like TCS I'm associated with. And in terms of institutes, I'm associated with the MS University, National Academy of Indian Railways. Work assignments have varied. As a consultant, even as a trainer, we wear various hats. So from etiquette coaching to soft skill training for mostly all the aspects of soft skills. Then in terms of, so there was a very interesting assignment in terms of training in etiquette. So one day I received a call from the National Academy of Indian Railways, where they said that we needed somebody to do a session on Russian etiquette. So I was like, okay. And they said that they had 40 officers who were traveling to Russia for a project, and they were scheduled for a dinner with the Russian government, and they were representing the Indian government and the Indian Railways over there. So they said we needed a session on also a little bit of Russian etiquette, and also on the dining part of it, the dining etiquette. So so work comes to you in different ways and from different spheres. So that was one. In terms of image, ma'am, on work assignments, on the clientele that I usually deal with is mostly males. So I deal with male consulting and styling, and in all the aspects of image management for male consultants. In terms of female work, in terms of image management, I don't deal much in the area of their appearance, but there are certain areas of self-image that I do take into consideration as part of my work for image management in women. So that's where we say that, self-image. And how did this, honestly, ma'am, hit me was in one of the conferences where you quoted that, like for the longest time, you always said that image is you in the mind of others. But when you actually, made us think and realize that image is first you in your mind and then in the mind of others. You remember this thing that you had said in one of the national conferences. So that really hit me very hard, and that made me realize that there is so much work that we can do when it comes to self-image, which is, often not taken into consideration, because usually the whole, again, stereotype with image management is that it's all dealing with the appearance part. And like very conveniently, we forget the whole inner image, the self-image part of it. So we always say, it's taught to us that image works outside in and inside out. But yes, inside out is a big part of it. And so that's where I realized that yes, that's something that I can definitely cater to in terms of image management.
Fantastic.
So this is like, it's been busy, really. Yes.
So Mehernosh, you belong to the city called Vadodara, and
Yes,
that's
ma'am.
considered to be tier 2 city.
Right.
And people often assume or believe that tier 2 cities don't have much scope or has very limited scope. So what do you have to say about it? And are you limited to your own city, or you're spreading your wings outside Vadodara as well?
Okay. Ma'am, see, the best part in our field as image management is that there are so many hats we wear. So as an image consultant and a soft skill trainer, you can do various things. So every city will come with its own demographics. Every city will come with its own challenges. What you need to do as a consultant is realize that what are the demographics of your city? What are the dynamics that will work in your favor as a consultant to your city? Each city will have its own pros and cons. So if I talk about tier 2 city and tier 2 or even tier 3 cities, now just taking the example of finishing school, I go and deliver training programs to, forget tier 2, to rural areas. So I got work worth 40-50,000 rupees in a rural village, a government college which is not even in a tier 2 city, it's a town. So it comes under, jaise hum bolte, Zilla, Gram, Panchayat. So there were colleges even like that where there was work which has come worth this amount from there. So work is existing everywhere, but you need to realize how to tap into that work, because it's not going to come walking to you.
True.
You will have to figure it out, that where is it, that how can you reach that work. And what we really learn in the base of image management is the need to look, feel and perform better. So that remains same, be it tier 1, tier 2 or tier 3. That's human behavior. So that need is not going to change anywhere. Today you take a person from Bombay, you take a person from Baroda. They both have the need to look, feel and perform better.
Absolutely.
So it's just that what need will be preferable to whom is something which is necessarily important, which you need to figure out. That who, the person from Bombay, what is his need going to be, and the person from Baroda, what is his need going to be. So they will have different needs. Now as a consultant, it is your job to cater to those type of needs as per the demographics of your city. And if you do that, then things definitely work in your favor.
Absolutely.
So it's something which, if we do for us from our side, it will definitely work. And the money part is also, like, a lot of people, ma'am, have this, tier 2 mein paisa nahi hai. They say, money is not something people pay in tier 2, but there is a lot of money and which is existing in tier 2 cities. It's just that the portion in the market segment of it might be little less, but there is a certain amount of percentage of segment which is existing. If you try to cater to that segment, and they are the ones who are looking for services like you, they are the ones who are looking for exposure, because being in a tier 2, they don't get that exposure. So that's the need. If you identify, you can definitely capitalize on it in a tier 2.
Brilliant. So that means that there is no dearth of work, and you always feel that there is always a scope to do much, much better than anybody else.
Absolutely, ma'am. Absolutely.
And
you should live. Yes, ma'am. It will depend on you. Like, don't limit, and even don't limit yourself. Even if you are in a tier 2, so what? I mean, don't you want to go out and work? So I go out and work as well, being in tier 2, because that I consider as growth. Traveling has always been part of growth, associated with growth. So when you go out and work, you also get exposed as a trainer. So I have clients for whom I work in Bombay. I have pan India clients who have their presence in Hyderabad, Pune. I have done even a client consultation in Pune for a client by traveling to Pune. So it does, work does come in from every possible place when you start networking and marketing yourself on social media, because social media is not going to be city wise. No, so it's not that today when I put up something, people only in Baroda see it. People see it all over. So work can come from anywhere. And in fact, in this time of digitalization, you should make the most of it.
And I think now that everybody has moved down to technology thanks to the lockdown, uh, the world has become so small that you can sit in one location and you can do so much work, sitting at the comfort of your
Absolutely.
home.
Yes. It's come as a blessing in disguise, as we can say.
Yes, so true. So what is the most memorable experience that became in your professional life that you would like to share with us?
So, ma'am, every training is a different experience that a trainer gets, and I'm sure there's something that every training brings to you as a special experience. But this memory that I'm going to share today with you over here is really very special in terms of the value I realized of you as a trainer or a consultant, which is this part of you which I could probably call as the power to influence, and how that power to influence can play a role in somebody else's life. So I was doing this training in a very remote area in Gujarat. I don't know if people must have even heard. It's a district called Dang, DANG. And in Dang district, so it's also considered one of the tribal belts of Gujarat, very close to Maharashtra border, one of the tribal belts of Gujarat. There was a government arts and science college there, and I traveled there to deliver a project on finishing school by the state government. And one of the first trainings that I had taken up, a very good college, good infrastructure provided, but of course the students did not have that kind of exposure. So I entered the place and I started. The training usually happens in English as well as the regional language, which is Gujarati, because their English is not very great. So if you start directly in English, they get intimidated. So it's like you start a little bit in Gujarati and then you start putting English in between a little bit as well. So it lifts them up, and that's the way they learn as well. So slowly, as each day was passing, and they were getting better and better, and they were learning the skills, and they were really liking that whole training that was happening. They were looking forward to coming to college for a change. That's what they used to say, that so we feel like coming to college. It makes us feel that we are learning something new and different in life. On the last day, ma'am, when I was telling them about the things and how they're going to now take on to the life ahead, because when we do the life skills and employability skills and train them, so I was telling them that now it's the time to put things into practice. Now it's the time that whatever you have learned, now it's time to put this knowledge to application. So the session got over, and all the students were coming and meeting me. Outside the hall, there was a group of people waiting, and I thought it was probably people from the college, or they must be coming. So when I went to see who they were the parents of these kids, ma'am, who had come. And on the last day, the kids had told their parents that you have to come and see that who is this gentleman who has come and he's teaching us this every day. And every day the kids used to go back and talk about what they had learned in the training. So the parents were very curious, ये कौन है जो कहीं से तो आए हैं और इनको क्या सिखा रहे हैं ऐसा कि बच्चों को कॉलेज में बहुत मजा आ रहा है. I mean, they are really liking it and they are really enjoying and looking forward to go in college. And few things have changed in their behavior, few things have changed in the way they look at life and their attitude. So the parents were standing there, and they were the ones who came and said that, sir, what college is not done in these 3 years, I think you have done in these 10 days.
Wow.
So that was, that came like really as a shocker. And as I told you, that's when it hits you hard, that you have that power to influence as a trainer and as a consultant, and that's a high which every consultant or a trainer gets, at the end of every consultation or training that he completes. And trust me, that high cannot be beaten by any drug in this world. So that was the moment that I realized, and it really hit me hard that, Mehernosh, yes, this is something that could be the thing that you're made for, and this is something that you should be doing much more if you really want to see a change in the people. So that training really left a very strong impression for me, and it will always be very memorable, where it really felt very special for those kids. So that was something I can tell as a memorable one, absolutely memorable.
So, Mehernosh, we have busted 3 myths today. One was that you can't always think like a professional. You need to take an entrepreneurial plunge also whenever your heart allows you to do so. Secondly, it's not about women-dominated industry or a men-dominated industry. It is about you. It's all about you. And the third thing, there is nothing like a tier 1, tier 2 or tier 3 city. It is all about how passionate you are and how you push your work and how do you make yourself successful. So we come to the last question. Any message for people who are planning on becoming their own boss and follow their passion?
Okay. So the first message is, ma'am, in fact, in your question where it says planning on becoming. So first thing I would say is plan this transition well. If you are thinking of it, don't make it an overnight decision. Don't make it something that you're just going to jump into, without thinking about it. Plan it very well. And when I say plan, put it on paper. Like today, I still have that paper which I sat with to write down the pros and cons. That if I quit, what are the things that are going to happen as pros? What are the things that are going to happen as cons? Most of the time, what we do is, it's there in our head, but it's only in our head. Like we say, dreams can only turn into goals once you put them on paper. Goals are put on paper. Otherwise, they are dreams in the head. So plan this transition very, very well is the first thing which I will tell them. Take time, write it down, write everything down, make notes about it, because that's when you engage the logical and the analytical part. Yes, you have to have a heart in it to make that decision, but that heart will also be only supported when there is logic and analytics attached to it, because that is what will give you confidence and faith to move ahead. Otherwise, the heart will always have that wish. There are so many people who say, like we always say, I wish I could do this. We never say, no, I could plan, I could do this. You always say, I wish. But that wish is always the wish of the heart. But when is it going to happen? When you're actually going to put your head into it.
Right.
So that's the first thing which I would say, start doing. Second message, ma'am, is think 100 times or think 1,000 times. Take your time to think when you're doing it. But once you decide, it's like how I told you, ma'am, once that button was pressed of that mail, go, resignation, then stop thinking. Then there is no looking back. Because if you think even after deciding, then you're continuously contemplating in your head, and then there is no end to that contemplation. Because then you are not putting all your energies in how to make that decision effective and work towards it. Because your brain is continuously still thinking, did I take the right step or not? Did I take the right step or not? So think before. As much as you want, take your time to think. Don't rush into it. But once thought, once decided, then give it a stop. Because फिर आगे बढ़ ही नहीं पाओगे आप. Third thing, become your own boss. But don't forget that you will also have to be your own slave. Okay. You have to, entrepreneurship is one way very, very similar to job is, if you want to be successful, is you have to work every day, every single day. Like, ma'am, you are an entrepreneur yourself, right?
Okay,
you have to go to.
Let me share this, that although it just looks like I'm a very fancy entrepreneur, but let me tell you, and let me tell everybody, whoever is there who's a part of this live session, that I did not start as an entrepreneur. I started as an office boy in my own office when I was making coffee for all the people who were sitting inside. I was a coffee maker. I was a counselor. I was a trainer. I was the one who was at the